Roblox is a game I've mentioned previously on the channel that has many varieties between games. It's the only platform where you can fight gambling next to ice cold murder, except for Counter-Strike. One of those game varieties, or rather types, is story. One of the key game series that has innovated and popularized this genre is the camping series made by Samsung XVI. I will go through these games in lore order and explain the story, gameplay and additional elements, because nobody else has.
So that was a lot.
Editor, roll the intro. So the first game I will address is Mansion. You load in and go outside after watching TV about a car crash happening nearby. You enjoy how similar your street is to the average American suburb and then check out the mill. A guy named Jack, who owns the mansion nearby, wants you and the rest of the neighborhood to come to have dinner in regards of the car crash his daughter was the victim of. You all decided to go, except for one family. Psst, they're important later. You make your way to the mansion where you have to dodge some roadwork stuff like cranes and traffic cones and come across this grave at the place of the car crash that was shown on TV. You then arrive possibly with less people than that you left with and head inside. When you're at the dinner table, Jack says that he's very pissed because of the family I mentioned previously not showing up to dinner because he hosted the events just for them and what they did. He says he's going to check on dinner but he doesn't come back. We then check on him where he starts hour farming us for a bit until he turns around and starts abusing the Second Amendment and his possible British ancestry. You then go in a room close to the door and eventually hide inside a closet after he makes some movie reference I'm too young to understand, where he states his name is Zach, not Jack, but the closet leads to a different room, where you see that he's been working on an animal suit, with what presumably is his dead daughter next to him. Her soul then sends you to a dungeon under the mansion, where you jump a couple of times and then go inside of an empty room. In this room, you see what is mentioned drastically needs pest control, until the door opens. Unfortunately, the exit is boarded off, so you go through a library maze that moves where you can come across Zack and then you find an emergency exit. You go home, watch some TV, but oh no, Zack has found your IP address and you expected a VPN ad right here, didn't you? Anyways, on to the next game, which is Hotel. You get welcomed in the Glumo Hotel. Grab your key and... You then get woken up by an alert in the middle of the night. You make your way to the lobby via the stairway, or what is left of it. You don't see the lady that was there before. Strange. So then, all the players decide to all stay in one room, because they're scared shitless. While the elevator door closes, you get jump scared by something that looks familiar. After you chill in one player's room for a while, you hear knocking on the door. It's a family of 5 that looks very familiar. They ask why the alert went off, and you then make yourself look like a fat junkie in front of this family. They promptly tell you to stop joking and then go back to their rooms. You then realize that if you don't do anything, you will die. So you decide to go to the lobby and call for 911 because the lobby is the only place in the hotel with a working phone somehow. You do this with the elevator because the stairs are fucked. However, the elevator takes you to a hidden demonic floor where you do an obby. At the end of the obby, you go into a room where you can find the lady from the lobby dead on the floor. The monster somehow knows that you're in that very room, but luckily a ladder just spawns in and you can climb to an elevator. You then call 911 and decide to head off to the roof, because you think the local police has the budget for a police helicopter. However, the elevator gets stuck. But fear not, you can do parkour to escape from this elevator, unlike the VDV. In this parkour, one of the 3 endings may occur. When you're out of the shaft, there is a locked door in your way. Luckily, there's a convenient vent where you can make your way through. When you're on the roof at last, the creature appears. You then have to dodge 3 of the same attacks for like 3 minutes straight until the door magically opens. You make your way to the lobby via the stairway and get greeted by cops. You then come across the family in the end where they say that they have to go camping. In the second ending, you do the exact same thing. But instead of going to the lobby, you go to your room, where in the morning you get greeted by the creature. In the third ending, while you do parkour, you can climb up via the chains on the wall onto a hidden floor where you see Zack. He walks towards disregards you and then says that he cannot have you interfere with his business, presumably killing you. As I mentioned previously, the family from hotel and mansion went camping. They all eventually got hunted down by Zach Nolan, who got imprisoned, as this paper says, in camping 1. But as you see, the son was nowhere to be found. That is what this game is basically about. So you arrive at Specky Woods, explore for a while, and then sit around the campfire until, oh no, a black man appears, and you run away to the cave nearby where you decide to stay for the night because the rain is filled with acid. The next morning you check out the campsite to discover that one of the tents has broken down, and there are 2 park rangers next to a dead deer. The park rangers are named Steve and Daniel. They'll be important later. They're laying down bear traps because of the bear that has murdered this deer. Hey, that rhymes. Then night comes and you decide to stay inside of the cave again. However, you all forgot to collect the picnic basket. And so, one brave soul has to go through the skin burning acid to get the basket. When you're all back and all have eaten some sandwiches, you find out that one of them was poisoned. One person then dies because of sheer RNG. The cave then collapses in one frame, and then you have to push away some rocks and find a slide. One of those slides has sharp rocks at the end. Truly a safety hazard. You make your way through the rest of the cave, which has a wooden maze built inside of it with bears or an obby. You eventually find an exit. You explore the campsite for a while, and then you discover that the black man lost one of his legs because he stepped on a bear trap. He then proceeded to write something on the tent with his own blood. Then night comes, and one of these 3 endings shall occur. If your friends have survived, the first ending will occur. Rain comes and you hide in a tent. Then somebody gets kidnapped who you will have to rescue. Eventually a large darkness will start rising from God knows where, and you decide to climb on top of a pillar where the black man is waiting and just hour farming you. He eventually levitates towards you but collapses onto the ground because he can't handle sunlight. After you hurt his feelers, he says that he does not understand what you're saying because he was trying to help. He said that he went insane after the first incident happened, which basically means he is this child, and that he was trying to hunt down a murderer. He says that he did not poison anyone. The game then zooms onto a backpack with a random person's name in it. The game then zooms in on the contents inside of the backpack, which is rat poison. The backpack owner then pulls out a knife and kills the rest. The second ending will occur if your friends did not survive. Nobody gets kidnapped, but the darkness will still emerge from the valley. You make your way up to the pillar again, and after waiting for a while, the black man will appear behind you. He then kills you. Why? Because you are the murderer. The third ending is literally if you merge the 2 endings mentioned previously. You pull out a knife on the helpless black man, which I think is more of a glitch than an actual ending. There also is a secret ending. You have to find or buy the lucky coin. When you have the lucky coin, you will want to go to the well on day 2. You will drop it into the cave and will be meted with this. Anyways, on to camping 2. You arrive in Terra Park and see a familiar face as your guide. Daniel shows you the camp, where half the players sleep at the cabin, where the other half of the players sleep at. Then he shows you the bathroom, and damn, that mirror is dusty. Anyways, night comes, and if you're at the camp, you will just talk around the campfire until suddenly Zack, rocking a prison outfit, arrives and starts abusing his British ancestry again. Eventually all players take shelter in the cabin until Daniel arrives. He then says you're just joking. Next day, you're trying to confront Daniel, but he doesn't care and wants you to do an obby, where at the end you get rewarded with s'mores. The night comes again, but this time you're all at the camp relaxing by the campfire. The acid rain then comes, and you hide in a tent. The fire logically goes out and Daniel tells you that you have to collect wood, not pages. You can come across Zack while collecting wood. After you do that, you go back to the fire where Daniel says that he needs to get something from the cabin. While that happens, the entire campsite turns into Bosnia. Daniel comes back and asks what happened. He refuses to give a fuck about the fact that you guys almost got blown up and tells everyone to go to sleep. You then find a gun in a tent, and here one of the 2 endings can occur. If you decide to not kill Daniel, he tells you the next day that a massive storm is gonna hit the park, and so you will have to stay in the hole that night. When you go in the hole, Daniel realizes that you did not leave a rope to get back up, but luckily this hole leads to a massive cave with a maze, whatever the fuck this is, and an obby. Daniel speedruns his way through with the campers barely catching up to him, and now they're on a pillar. However, Zack is there as well. Daniel explains who Zack is, and then when he's about to kill you, the black man appears and then rips his fucking head off. In the other ending, you kill Daniel, and so he cannot inform you about the storm. When the storm comes, you decide to stay in the cabin which collapses. You then make your way to the hole and do the same maze obby thing as the good ending. And when you reach the pillars, you can see Zack again. He says that he can kill whoever he wants, and then he runs at you with a knife. There also is a secret ending. When you go to the bathroom while collecting wood, a portal appears, where you're met with basically the same scene as Camping 1. Anyways, on to the final game in the series, Camping 3. You arrive at Wicca Peak and are met with two familiar faces. Daniel leads you around the campsite. He shows you the cozy lodge, the abandoned mine, the ice lake, and a massive forest with "It's Freddy Fazbear!" You go back to the lodge, and while chilling by the fireplace, you start to hear crying. You investigate the crying and find Park Ranger Steve wounded on the floor. Then the mouse-like creature you saw earlier shows up and kills him. You then discover that this mouse is literally Zeus, because he can summon lightning. He aura farms you and your group at the lodge until he draws "See you soon" on the wall with the blood from Park Ranger Steve. But then, while discussing where to stay since the lodge clearly ain't safe, somebody contracts COVID-19, and you have to go outside and collect wood from them to be cured at the fireplace. After that, you decide to stay in the mine for a while. However, an avalanche then blocks off the main entrance, and you all get hungry. So you decide to do the sensible thing and result to cannibalism. The avalanche then starts to fill in the rest of the mine, and you have to do a little obby avoiding spikes, more spikes, minecarts, and oh, there's Daniel, who leaves the mine with you through a trapdoor exit he used to hide from the monster, he says. He asks what happened to the player you cannibalized, and you all decide to not tell him. For the final night, you decide to stay in the lodge for some reason, and on that very night, the mouse creature breaks in, and so makes you run out of the lodge, where you come across a familiar creature. You find out that her name is Limbo, and then you have to do the most sweatiest boss fight in Roblox history, dodging explosions, fire, lightning, and more lightning. The mouse then decides to end this and knocks you all out. They then try to kill you by pushing you off the edge of a cliff in a minecart. However, the family that got murdered all the way back in Camping 1 shows up and decides to stop the mouse's plan, which, if you haven't figured out, is Zack Nolan. Then the son shows up, whose name is Nightmare, and says that it's time to end this. He then flashbangs everyone, which shows the murderous duo without the suit, including an alive Zack, who, I will reiterate, had his fucking head ripped off. The father then apologizes to Zack for hitting his daughter with a car, while the minecart with Daniel and the players rolling away. And then Zack decides to stop the cart, but while stopping, he falls to the edge himself, ending the final game. With that, we conclude this journey. Thank you for your time, leave a like to make the algorithm love me, and I'll remain your favorite niche YouTuber.